From Newcastle to Catherine Hill Bay and west to Pelton, most lower hunter communities have a historical link to coal mining. And it was a newcomer's fascination that prompted Newcastle-based community publisher Catchfire Press to compile Beneath the Valley.
Well, it was one of our committee members said, look, I've only been in Newcastle a few years. I really want to know the coal mining stories.
The collection of works draws on memoirs of miners and their families, poems and short stories, like Col Mabry's first day as a mine worker. For Bob Brown, the school teacher who encouraged local youth to take an interest in their coal mining heritage before he entered state and federal politics, Beneath the Valley is the book he's long waited to see.
People who had any association with the coal mining industry, that the coal mining industry influenced their lives, they and their children should have copies of this book.
And across the valley, another piece of history is to be preserved. One of Maitland's earliest war memorials to Trooper Frederick Avard, killed in the Boer War in October 1900, will be restored by the federal government.
Clearly enjoying himself at last night's Swansea Bridge meeting, the comments made by opposition spokesman Mike Gallagher went relatively unchallenged. 5 invitations were issued to Labor MPs, 3 of them ministers.
None of their representatives turned up, and that was sad to see that.
200 others did attend though, and among the first items of business to see how much money has been spent on maintaining Swansea Bridge. Just recently, the Pacific Highway was closed intermittently to allow the RTA to fix a bizarre gas build-up on the southbound bridge, caused, according to the RTA, by corrosion of galvanised steel. That's since happened, but bridge activists claim the northbound, much older structure is a dinosaur, consistently requiring attention. The RTA says the bridge works fine. Near enough, not good enough, say locals, who've since set up a committee looking at alternatives and, for whatever good it will do, pressuring the state to act. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
These are the first pictures of the new Ford Focus that Michael Guest will pilot in the Australian Rally Championship next year.
It's an awesome thing to drive. I got out smiling from ear to ear.
Barely out of the hands of engineers, the team was to unveil the car publicly at the season-ending round at Bathurst this weekend, but a minor component failure forced a rethink and today's decision to pull out.
It's not safe for us to compete in the event, so I must say I'm disappointed. It's probably an understatement.
While only a small problem, he knows it's only in his best interests.
We've seen a guy that I knew fairly well got killed in the RAC rally not long ago, so safety is paramount and Ford won't take any risks with that.
With the team some 2 years in the making, another few months will only help them, given the real work lay ahead. The next few months will focus on testing at the proving ground, where it will get pushed along every surface and in all conditions to ensure bases are covered before next season.
The fact that the balance is so good and all of the parameters that the engineers have built into it from a base level are so good, it's really easy now for us to build on that and work on that in the off-season and have a great package for next year.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
For 3 days each October in a pavilion at Maitland Showground, wine from the Hunter's boutique producers is put to the test. Three judges, led by senior show circuit judge Dr Ray Healy, are this year assessing 400 entries from 80 vineyards, which have a total grape pick of less than 350 tonnes, and the crop must have been grown locally.
That's correct. The grapes have got to be grown in the catchment area of the Hunter River. And so, this is a real fair dinkum Hunter River show.
Entries come from labels as diverse as Adina to Audrey Wilkinson. They cover varieties from Chardonnay to Verdelho and the vintages of 1994 to 2005. And it's the latest offerings that please the Chief Judge.
They're really quite exciting. And I think the 05 is we haven't seen since probably the 40s. And there are a few very hot years in the 40s, which were also very long ripening.
The winners will be awarded tomorrow night, but the most important part of the competition is Friday's all-important debrief.
Yeah, on Friday morning they can all come in here in this wonderful venue and start tasting their wines or tasting their oppositions if they think they scored higher, and talk to the judges and get some points from their point of view.
The public can judge product from 15 of the entrants during Cellar at the Cells at the Old Maitland Jail this weekend. Gary Blair, NBN News.
He's played the world over with rock band Silverchair and continues to do so with his new group Tamburlaine, but nerves still get the better of Ben Gillies even when he's back in Newcastle.
In this situation, it's so different. Like, people are kind of listening to every word. I actually have to speak, which I'm not very used to in front of a crowd. But it's all right. After a few minutes, you warm up.
Armed with the essential tools of a drumming workshop, both seasoned and novice musicians fronted today's session, led by Gillies and his longtime teacher, Nick Sassir.
I would have felt kind of a bit guilty if I would have said no. So, I don't know, just trying to give something back to the community.
Aussie diva Renee Gayer helped TAFE students find their voice, while Tyrone Noonan of George fame put on his songwriting hat, saying good artists borrow, great artists steal. A real lesson in music according to educators, and a careers expo of sorts, part of Newcastle Music Week.
We actually have an ex-student who's speaking on one of the seminars today. He's working with Michael Chugg Entertainment in Sydney. So from things like this, we've had results like that.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
It's an iconic work in the city, and for the first time in many years the fountain will be working to its best capacity.
It was a devastating day for the members of the Hamilton North Karate School, their much-loved hall totally destroyed. They'd been operating out of the Scout Hall for more than 30 years. The day after the fire, instructor Peter appealed for help.
If somebody's got a hall somewhere for us that we can train in, that would be just terrific.
3 weeks on, and there's some good news. The school has reopened at the Adamstown Pensioners and Senior Citizens Hall. The senior citizens heard Peter's plea and, like many others, contacted him.
we got the phone calls almost the next day in the morning. It's terrific to see. It sort of renewed my faith in human nature a bit after what we went through with the hall.
The first class was held this afternoon for a special group in the Head Start program, which helps with the rehabilitation of people with a brain injury. The students familiarising themselves with their new dojo.
It's different, like with everything else, we've got to get used to it. But we're so happy that we've just got a hall we can train in.
Peter says he's overwhelmed by the generosity and support of the community, one man even coming forward to raise money to buy them new karate mats.
He said, I'm going to do this for you guys, and he just went at it like a bull at a gate.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
At the John Hunter Hospital, 120 volunteers have been trained to travel the wards, asking patients the tough question, have you asked someone to make decisions for you if you're unable to do so yourself? Newcastle is the only place in New South Wales running what's called the Respecting Patient Choices program. It's about encouraging sick or ageing patients to nominate a substitute decision maker and outline what decisions that person should make.
Because most people now can't make decisions for themselves at the end of their lives. When you get terminally ill or very, very sick, 95% of people, they can't make decisions for themselves.
Dr. Peter Saul says planning your health care in advance can prevent confusion between family members and doctors down the track on matters such as life support.
We can support your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, we can transplant everything, we can do all sorts of stuff, but we need to know from people at what point is your life so awful that you don't want us to do that anymore.
An information session will be held at the John Hunter Hospital next Thursday to teach people how to appoint a substitute decision maker. Anyone who's interested can call 4921 4776. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
Although he's always been one to keep up with the times, Aaron Trahair can't avoid the veteran tag these days. His teammates just won't let him forget.
A few of the boys call me grandpa in the team, even though I'm not the oldest in the team. So apart from that, I know I feel pretty old some days, so they don't have to remind me.
Given it's his 350th NBL game tomorrow night, it will be hard to avoid, but it's certainly reward for his achievements in the league. And going on recent form, he's still got plenty of time at the top left in him yet.
Personally, I was pretty happy with what I did over the week, and you know, now that's a platform, and try and do that every game.
It's a bit like that for the entire squad, which is starting to build into the team they want to be. And it's no coincidence, it comes with having everyone available.
You feel better when you're around your teammates and you try harder and you're pushing each other, and your work ethic lifts because, you know, we're competing. So, yeah, we can only get better as a team.
After his early season setback, Cullen gets to celebrate a mark in his career as well tomorrow night in what will be career game number 150. A win against Brisbane and then against Melbourne on Sunday would make it one to remember. Jim Callanan, NBN News. There's something about Paul Perry and the Melbourne Spring, and he's planning for more happy times again this week. While racing over a mile hasn't suited his Golden Slipper winner Stratum, Perry will return the 3-year-old to what he knows best, a sprint in Saturday's L'Oriole Plate, a race Perry has featured in before and won last year with Fastnet Rock.
Yeah, no, it's been good for us, you know, and he's got a bit of weight, this horse, 60 kilos, you know, but it's, you know, he's a quality horse and I'm sure he'll run well.
In all, Perry will saddle up 5 runners over the week, including Coronga on Cup Day, after its eye-catching win at Moonee Valley at the weekend.
It's such a great carnival, you know, it's probably the next week's, you know, the glamour part of Australian racing, and just to be down there with a couple of real chances and being part of it is terrific.
Chris Lees, meanwhile, today liked what he saw in Vitesse Dane, who worked well this morning and will start from Gate 5 in Saturday's Group 1 Maya Classic.
kind of using this run as a stepping stone to the week after for a 2,000 metre race. So whatever she does will be a bonus, but I still think she'll sprint well.
Among his other runners, Flora Danica, who's in Thursday's feature race, the $750,000 Group 1 Oaks.
Out of the gym and onto the beach, Lisa Wright has been keeping her head down over winter.
Over the off-season I did a lot of weights at the forum and was training hard here, and now we're doing a bit down the beach when it's warmer. So yeah, it's been good. Our squad's been training hard.
None more so than the 20-year-old from Swansea Belmont. The first event of the season can't come quick enough for the physio student. The Warriors on water event at Port Macquarie offering plenty of rewards for Lisa, even if there are no financial ones.
They've put money on every event except for the flags, so yeah, I guess I'm just doing it for the love. But there's money on the sprint, so I hope I win that as well.
It marks yet another campaign for the reigning world and Aussie Beach Flags champion, taking on the sprint this summer as well, chasing gold in that event, which has eluded her.
I've got a few seconds at State and Aussies in the sprint, but never sort of got a first, so it's a really big goal of mine. It was my goal last year, but I missed out.
The bar was closed, pokies turned off, there wasn't even any bowls played, but the Charlestown Bowling Club was absolutely packed this morning. Behind closed doors, hundreds of members voted on a motion to allow Charlestown Square owners, General Property Trust, to buy the Bowls Club site. If the development application is approved, it allows the club to be moved onto the nearby Ferris Oval. Members voted overwhelmingly, 317 in favour of the shift and just 43 members against the move.
Well, I guess what it has done now is give General Property Trust the authority of Charlestown Bowling Club to go back to the council and obviously, as I said, try to retain and try and obtain some of that land on Ferris Oval so the development can proceed.
GPT wants to build the bowling club a new complex on part of Ferris Oval so it can expand the shopping centre on the club's existing site.
Some of the oval, a portion of it will be retained and it will continue to be used as open space.
It's progress and you've got to look forward to the future because a lot of clubs are folding and this will make our club so strong.
Ray Masters and his mates are on a mission to set a new world record for non-stop lawn bowls. It's been motivated by Ray's daughter Elizabeth. The 16-year-old had enough energy for a bowl today, despite spending the last 8 months receiving chemotherapy for lupus. Lupus is an autoimmune disease in which the immune system attacks normal body tissue.
It's got to do with the bloods, white cells and the red cells. Can affect any part of your body, and up until this time now, they just haven't got a cure for it.
The bowlers need to bowl day and night for the next 80-odd hours to set a new world record, but the real goal is to raise $50,000 to help research into lupus. Donations can be made at the Lemon Tree Passage Bowling Club or John Hunter Hospital. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
They represent the best in surf lifesaving from the eastern seaboard. Not quite the Aussie titles, but a fierce battle between states. Club colours were swapped with those familiar shades of blue and maroon today. New South Wales posting a healthy lead, making the visitors work for every point.
And this is the first time we've introduced this event, New South Wales versus Queensland. We're hopeful it'll end up being like State of Origin. And if that's the case, we can only continue to grow and it'll be a bigger and better event every year.
And Newcastle golfer Nathan Green has all but secured a US PGA Tour card, despite featuring well down the leaderboard at the nationwide event in Alabama. Firing a third round 75 this morning, Green is 4 over going into the final day. But the 30-year-old remains in 16th position on the money list, the top 17 progress.
Newcastle Airport at Williamtown has never been busier, and now, thanks to a study carried out by the University of Newcastle, we know just how much money the airport contributes to the Hunters economy. At over $200 million a year, it's big business.
$223 million a year, and more than half of that is contributed by people visiting the region. So people here on holidays, people here on business, contributing about $124 million a year to the economy.
Airport boss Julian Green is overseeing the completion of the new terminal before he leaves in December, and says during his tenure the number of passengers using the airport has tripled to 750,000 a year. He says low-cost airfares have played a huge role.
It's much easier and cheaper to fly to Brisbane or to Melbourne. And I think now that opens up opportunities for people to be able to come into the region or travel out of the region just for a weekend or go to a sports events. We're seeing a lot of people who are first-time flyers now travelling up to 4 and 5 times a year because air travel is just so much more accessible now.
The study also found that the airport supports over 2,000 direct and indirect jobs. As far as Green's job is concerned, he says he has nothing lined up as yet. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
No one seems to exactly know what sparked the brawl involving 6 visiting Sudanese youths from Sydney and a group of Caucasian males in Islington Park, but police are continuing to investigate.
There are some certain aspects of that particular incident involving people from out of the area that we are looking closely at and is subject of current investigations.
Newcastle's Sudanese community was meeting at the nearby Baptist church when the brawl erupted, and their members quickly intervened. African refugee worker Simon Parbeck says they've only been able to get one version of events, and that's from the visiting youths because they waited for police while the other group fled.
They tried to explain their side, but because the other Australian boy ran away, we didn't find exactly what is the problem.
The brawl comes on top of a racist rally in the park earlier in the year and is now expected to see the Sudanese look for an alternative location to hold their community activities.
So what we will do as a community, we have to sit down and think about to avoid that area.
And while they work through the issue, Novocastrians are being asked to continue their support for the fledgling community.
The public, like Newcastle, they have to understand if something single like that come out, does not mean all the community that are involved or all the community is bad.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
The vote by bowling club members is a win for developer General Property Trust and surely a loss for the Save Ferris Oval Group, but it's far from defeated.
We knew it'll be a long fight and the fight's far from finished.
Under the complicated plan, developers would buy the bowling club site for the $300 million expansion and build a new club on Ferris Oval, its land owned by Lake Macquarie City Council.
Ferris Oval belongs to the community, it belongs to the people of Lake Macquarie.
Facilities at St John Oval would be upgraded for sporting activities and council would seek other open space as part of a compensation plan.
If we get the type of compensation that we're looking at now and a higher value open space, then we will have open space and a world-class domain up there that our community would never afford otherwise.
There's still a lot of red tape to be worked through, and Council says it will take time, while conceding the developers are anxious for an answer. They hope to have construction underway in 2008. Council is expected to vote on the plan before Christmas. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
A relaxed Jets manager watched his squad recover this morning after a tough night in Sydney.
Everybody knows that we've now got to travel all around Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, that's important. Keep the group together.
There was a sea of sky blue on a grey day, but David Carney saw red over this challenge by Nick Carl. A lack in direction meant both sides squandered early chances. And in a match riddled with spite, Carney was yellow carded for his handiwork. The Newcastle captain proved his Sydney critics wrong. A game fuelled by off-field remarks levelled at Newcastle's apparent shortfalls in defence.
If anybody thinks that we should be worried about our defence, they're wrong.
Liam Reddy got a fingernail to this attempt under constant pressure by Sydney, which broke the stalemate in the 72nd minute. 4 minutes later, though, Ante Milicic fired the equaliser.
I think he showed what he's about yesterday. I mean, I thought he worked really hard. The service to him wasn't very good on the day, but he was in the right spot at the right time.
After 10 rounds, the Jets remain just outside the top 4. Adam McIlwright, NBN News. From the Queensland Cup to the NRL, Newcastle is calling Rick Stone.
There's no doubt that, I've got a lot of strong ties in the Gold Coast still, but, I'm totally focused on Newcastle at the moment. I'm from Newcastle originally. I grew up here and happy to be back here.
Like Stone, performance manager Scott Dickinson also started work today, wasting no time in his new role to get the best out of players.
In the meetings that I've had with them so far, they've all been very receptive to a few of the new ideas that I've been putting to them.
After working at Queensland's Institute of Sport since 1998, Dickinson says moving to the Knights was his chance to specialise in one code.
We've got about 53 players on the books at the moment, so it's probably about similar to what I was dealing with up in Queensland, but now we can really focus down.
The club has also appointed a rehabilitation coordinator, someone the players haven't had full-time access to in the past. Earlier in the year, the issue was brought to a head when former football manager and Knights stalwart Mark Sargent questioned the club's resources. 5 months on, a new structure is in place. Adam McIlwright, NBN News.
It didn't take motorists long to come face-to-face with Phase 1 of the high-visibility Operation Mega Vikings. Within hours of police saying they'd be out in force for the weekend, officers were on the streets conducting random breath tests.
We had just over 800 vehicles stopped and RB2 tests conducted, with the result for 11 PCA offences.
The strong presence resulted in a quiet weekend overall for Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and Waratah officers, with only 6 other arrests made as part of Mega Vikings, and they were for street offences. The second and final stage of the operation will be conducted tomorrow, with police keen for trouble-free Melbourne Cup Day festivities and on the roads.
We want to make sure that there will be a high-profile presence of police around licensed premises.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Earlier this year, we brought you the story of Bethany Mills and her little sister Leanna, who both live with a rare disorder called dystonia, which attacks the brain, leaving limbs stiff and the body twisted. After a massive community fundraising effort, Bethany has undergone brain surgery in France to help correct the problem. Now it's Leanna's turn.
She's on an enormous amount of medication just to keep her stable till we get over there. She's in a lot of pain with headaches and leg aches and everything like that, twists and everything like that. But once we get over to France, have the operation, we hope she'll be till probably at 90% to a normal child.
The pain relief is just not working as well as what it should now. So we're up every 1.5 to 2 hours at night, and it's hard, but you do it because you love your children and they're everything to you.
Leanna and her parents, Nick and Michelle, left Newcastle today thanks to the generosity of a local airline. The 9-year-old will have electrodes permanently placed in the brain and connected to batteries which stimulate the body. The family is hoping Leanna's results are just as successful as her older sister's. And with the procedure alone costing $100,000, the family is grateful for the help they've received.
Newcastle community's been amazing. I mean, we couldn't have done it without Newcastle helping us.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
For the Stewart family, last year's Melbourne Cup wasn't all about racing. It was the joyous day their son Brady was born. Going into early labour, the Stewarts were unable to get to a hospital and had to call an ambulance for help. The profound experience having a major impact on Jason.
I had no inkling of being an ambulance officer at all for quite a long time, and then Brady came into our lives and changed a lot of things. So.
12 months on, the 32-year-old turned up for his first day on the job.
I saw the way the ambulance service helped us along and just want to do the same thing for other people.
The arrival of the Stewart's second child was also special for Officer Jodie Adams. She delivered Brady and is now his proud godmother.
It was just a wonderful experience and something that I'll never ever forget.
And it seems becoming an ambulance officer is a popular choice, with a rise in the number of people swapping jobs and signing up to join the more than 3,000 officers across New South Wales.
About 10 guys in my class that are very similar situations, young families, and they made a career change.
And with the Melbourne Cup on tomorrow, there's no doubt the Stewarts will be taking a punt. But you get the feeling they've already found their little winner.
Student teacher Tess O'Brien has been deaf her entire life, yet her forte is teaching kids how to sing, made easier by technology.
I was born with a degenerative hearing loss, so however, nobody knew I was deaf for many, many years. I just thought everyone was like me.
After 35 years of community work, Tess decided in 1999 to become a teacher. Only now is she finalising her degree after it was so cruelly interrupted by 5 different types of cancer.
As I said in there, this world is lucky I've got a good sense of humour.
Given her cancer is terminal, it's a remarkable outlook on life. Despite everything, Tess has certainly struck a chord, using her personal experiences to teach the kids so much more than music.
The students here are absolutely engaged in their learning when I've seen Tess teaching, which is a true indicator of a teacher's success.
But the biggest test for Mrs. O'Brien is life itself. Inspired by a Japanese story, she's taken up the challenge to make 1,000 paper cranes in return for one wish. They've made over 1,500 just to be sure.
If I get my wish and if I do everything I can to put into staying alive, then everything else falls into place. I don't need any more wishes and I don't need to have a bigger picture of anything else. Staying alive is the thing.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. Gold Cup Day at Muswellbrook, and the most popular fashion accessory was the umbrella. A hot day in the Hunter Valley made more bearable, with the Muswellbrook Shire enjoying an official half-day holiday.
Wall-to-wall people over through the grounds there. There's 640 out the back in the Hocker, 150 in the Bengala Marquee, 200 upstairs in the members' facility. So they're all here.
The same can't be said about the number of runners, though. Despite more prize money being added to the program, trainers weren't taking any chances.
We've got 4 scratchings in one race, very early this morning, just because we had 6 mils of rain last night.
The dead track, however, suited Wyndon in the $40,000 feature. The Port Macquarie-based galloper winning its first at Muswellbrook and the Gold Cup, returning $11.20 the win and $2.50 the place. Yerga and Bamboo rounded out the minors, the trifecta managing $153.80. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
For Novocastrians, the focus was on 3 things: Flemington, fillies and, most of all, fashion. Both on and off the catwalk, the couture was the star of the show, these sizzlingly sexy swimsuit designs by local up-and-comer Alex Norrie. From one parade to another, and these guys strutted their stuff with plenty of style and sophistication. It was one of the day's highlights, the models none other than the students from the Samaritans post-school options class. At the Newcastle Jockey Club, the bubbly was flowing, the food in abundance and the company merry. But no racing. Instead, they turned their attention to Melbourne. St Joseph's Primary School hosted their own race, though, the 2005 St Joey's Cup. It started with the typical fashions of the field, including hordes of handmade hats, appropriate backing music topping it off. But onto the all-important Cup, and on a heavy track the horses pounded the playground. For some it ended in glory, while others didn't finish at all. Fortunately, the vet services were not required. And just for the record, a filly called Boo was victorious. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Swansea Flats is a quiet little anchorage for pleasure craft these days, but 60 years ago it was a thriving centre for shipbuilding. Hundreds of vessels were constructed between the trees at James Boyd's shipyard.
In its peak in 1943, there were 150 men working there, and they turned out about 24 vessels for the American Army.
Old James's grandson, George Boyd, and wife Nolene are preparing a book which aims to chronicle those times, and they've already collected some wonderful memories, like the Collier Stormbird going through the Swansea Bridge in the 1920s, and the construction of the lobster boat Pulba that was later converted into a stylish sailing ship.
And there were a lot of small mines around the lake and a lot of timber mills, and everything moved by ship.
Meantime, further north in the lake at Marmong Point, a little boy that played on the shore and sailed homemade boats has now grown up and bought the area's largest marina. Les Binkin says a range of improvements are planned at the site following the recent $5 million sale.
It's something that I've always wanted to do, and dreams come true, and we're in here now with a partner from Sydney, and we're going to make a go of it.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
"51-year-old Robert Bauer has suffered from Meniere's disease since he was 35. He says while it's not life-threatening, it is life-destroying. While it affects people differently, he likens the severe attacks or episodes which he was experiencing frequently to being excessively drunk due to the vertigo and vomiting.
The first symptom is often tinnitus, that's the ringing in the ears. And then when you're having a Meniere's attack, you actually go through vertigo, and vertigo is the monstrous spinning that you get.
While thankfully he's in remission now, he still suffers from residual hearing problems. Meniere's disease is thought to originate in the inner ear, and people can suffer from partial or complete hearing loss, vertigo and dizziness.
Meniere's disease is an inner ear disorder that affects your vestibular system, and your vestibular system is responsible for helping you maintain balance and keep you upright.
The cause of the disease is still unknown. Elizabeth Lamont, a graduate from the US, wants to change that. It's hoped the University of Newcastle researchers will help find the cause, along with new treatments and possibly even a cure, which for Meniere's sufferers would be a dream come true.
To get some research into it would be wonderful. It would be just wonderful.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Captain of the Community 11, Matty Johns, had some words for his batting partner, Michael Costa, but the Minister had few answers to the Knights 11. They were joined by the likes of drummer Ben Gillies and swimmer Justin Norris, the match organised to support the Newcastle people affected by the Bali bombings.
The people just, they sort of get together, stick together. That's what today's all about, It's not about the money. It's about community hurling, having a bit of fun. So it's good.
In the Community 11 side was teenager Isaac Zwolinski, who tragically lost his parents in the terrorist attack. Many Bali survivors also in the crowd.
It's just lovely to have everyone here, and it's just a real positive thing. Everyone's been so generous, and we're very grateful.
Catch of the day belonged to former Knight Steve Crowe, while former Test batsman Rick McCosker kept his captain very happy.
Rick McCosker, he's got a real future in the game, I reckon.
Todd Nardi, NBN News.
Backing up from a win over the Bullets on Friday night in Brisbane, Cairns trailed after the first quarter. But from the second, they turned the poor start around to shut down the Pirates' big men, to the disbelief of Coach Hurley.
We didn't get enough points from our, basically from Brad and Aaron and Mike. They're people we rely a lot on to get some points. I think they had about 24 points between the three of them.
With a crowd of 2,000 on hand, Larry Davidson was best for the Hunter, scoring 20. Not enough to beat the boys from Cairns, who were delighted with their weekend away.
Celebrate your wins, I reckon. It's hard as hell when you lose, so to get 2 on the road's terrific.
In 13 matches, the Pirates have won 5 and lost 8 and play the Razorbacks in Sydney on Friday.
trucks and truck drivers need not be feared on the roads. That was the message at the Transport Awareness Day. A massive road train of 230 rigs rolled along Hunter Street to the foreshore, and it's simply more relevant than ever. Since the last Trucking Awareness Day, 2 truck drivers have been jailed for their role in fatal highway crashes. One crash was near Cessnock, the other on the F3.
I stress that those 2 drivers are a very small minority of the tens of thousands of truck drivers that move freight on Australia's roads.
It's unfortunate that we do occasionally get some bad events that happen, and this has been a bad year for us.
But the 12th Annual Truck Awareness Day was all about promoting the job performed by law-abiding truck drivers. They stressed that the vast majority of truckies do the right thing.
The main message I think we're trying to get across is that we're not all idiots. We're out there doing a job, and we just want a bit of appreciation for what we do.
It's a pretty hard industry, you do pretty long hours and that, work hard for what you do.
The day is expected to raise more than $80,000 for the Westpac rescue helicopter. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
Enjoying the perks of having a golf giant as a major sponsor, Cherie Burns now has something in common with one of the game's greats.
Annika Sorenstam, the world #1 player, has been with Callaway for many years, so hopefully I can follow in her footsteps.
By her own admission, though, a disappointing putting performance on the recent European circuit saw Burns finish 35th on the tour. But since returning, the 29-year-old showed she's most comfortable at home course horizons, marked with a blistering 6-under finish at a members tournament.
I've done a lot of work with my coach over the last 3 weeks, and he reckons in the last 2 weeks my short game's improved more than the last 3 years.
Coupled with better financial backing, Burns appears untouchable going into the ALPGA circuit, which starts on Thursday week. She'll play 11 of 12 events before Christmas. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
In September 2002, Damien Meredith was due to be a Newcastle District Court witness after allegedly being shot in the foot by Daniel Davies. However, the 26-year-old Belmont North man failed to appear. Newcastle Supreme Court was today told by prosecutor Chris Maxwell QC that the Crown will allege Davies and a co-accused lured Damien Meredith to bushland south of Swansea 2 days before that earlier court hearing and shot him dead. It's the Crown case that Damien Meredith was killed by Daniel Davies and another man to stop Meredith giving evidence against him. The Crown further alleges Meredith's body was initially buried near the murder scene, only to be exhumed in October 2003 and taken to the Awabba Tip, where the remains were located during a police search last year. The jury has been told it will hear surveillance recordings made by police, in which it's alleged Daniel Davies tells family members that he cleaned up really good when the remains of Damien Meredith were relocated. Daniel Davies is allegedly heard to say it was the perfect murder. The trial before Acting Justice Patton and a jury is expected to last several weeks. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Chipping away at a basketball career, off the court, golf is Russell Hinder's game of choice. Reaching new heights at home and work, the 26-year-old will make his second appearance in the Boomers squad going into camp next month.
it's all been a fairy tale, but one that I'm not going to argue too much with, and if they keep saying my name, I'd be the happiest man in the world.
Sharing the moment with his family, Hinder's been a consistent performer for the Pirates, chasing one of 12 spots on offer in the national team. So is Brad Davidson, the 31-year-old point guard, given a shot and possibly his last at Commonwealth Gold.
It's a massive carrot to have sort of dangling out there, and something you sort of don't think about too much, but when it comes up, it's exciting, and we're going to be a good chance of winning gold.
Exciting too for the Pirates, having 2 national squad members and potential Aussie reps on their playing roster.
It instills a work ethic in you, going away to these boomers camps, and it lets you see how hard you have to work to become a world-class athlete.
Adam McIlwright, NBN News.
It's a report card on the performance of Newcastle City Council, gauging the satisfaction level of residents. 500 ratepayers were presented with 31 council services and facilities for ratings, and 26 of those areas were given a tick of approval. But those areas requiring attention included footpaths and road maintenance, parking in the CBD, managing the CBD, and community involvement in decision-making. In fact, 73% of respondents stated they were dissatisfied with the parking situation. Janet Dawes says that's already being tackled with a decision to create free parking in the King Street multi-level car park on weekends to entice people to the CBD.
There is some concern that we need to do something to free up some parking spaces to help the markets. Whether it will be a critical thing or not, we don't know, but at least we're trying.
But Councillor Aaron Buman says metered parking should also be free throughout the CBD on weekends.
I'm excited that Council are finally listening to what the community want, although I am concerned that we haven't gone far enough.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
If most of these projects were adopted, we'd have a very different looking Newcastle. They're the works of final year architecture students from the University of Newcastle and include some pretty impressive designs for a war memorial, a bathing pavilion at Merriweather and a new look ocean baths complete with a gym and hydrotherapy pool. The works have been given the once and twice over by assessors, marking the end of a tough 5-year degree for students. A visit to NBN's studios inspired this creation, a news station incorporating public viewing areas, 2 studios and a screen gallery which would display a range of footage that's been taken over the years.
So when are you going to take the idea to management?
It's open, it's here waiting for them to look at.
The designs will be on public display at Workshop Way until the weekend. Colleen West, NBN News.